Good morning. Today is March 8th, 2024. We're continuing studyings of the Tanya using the book by Rabbi Chaim Miller. Practical Tanya, it's called, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, based on a lot of Kabbalistic concepts and going through explanations of the anatomy and physiology of the connection between divine and physical. And we, yesterday and previous sessions, today was session maybe 34, I don't remember exactly which one, we are on chapter number 23 of Tanya. And Tanya discussed it yesterday. We talked about connections from a physical to divine. And we talked about the unity of God, non-duality of Judaism. Everything is God. Not an easy concept to understand initially. It becomes clearer if you think and contemplate about it. But basically, many people believe, and to the best of their knowledge, is that essentially there's God and there is me. And some people would say, well, God created the universe and just let it go as a roll of the dice. God exists, but universe and me, we just function independently. God did his job, and now it's us. Some people maybe feel something different. They say that God is continuously involved in every aspect of our life. He is involved with us. But the Tanya and Kabbalah believes even further. Not only God is involved with us, but he is us, or we are him. It's all one. How do you understand it? How do you understand this connection? Again, some people will believe that the many gods, not in Judaism, many gods, and yes, there is one God, the most powerful one, and all other gods are subservient to him. And many observant Jews believe there's 613 commandments, mitzvot we call it. 248 of them are positive and 365 negative. And interestingly, 248 negative commandments, mitzvot, correspond to 248 organs in our body. And 365 negative, well, you figure out what that means. Together, there's 613. And those mitzvot, commandments, they're like we have 248 organs. God had, so to speak, metaphorically, 248 organs. And that organs are expressions of God's will, communications to us. Just like when we pray, we express our connection. We try to establish connection to God. And we give all like Shema Israel says, with all your soul, with all your might, with all your life, which includes, as we discussed, thought, speech, action, and the movement of our body, our whole organs also come to complete dedication to God. That kind of analogy, parallelism to God, expressing himself to us. The difficult concept of, we discussed it yesterday, that when we speak, speech lives us. I said something, it's no longer part of me. What did I say? It's somewhere in the universe, but it's not part of me. When God speaks, he is the speaker, he is a speech, and he is a receiver of the speech. So now, Tanya turns into the concept of connection, communication with God. We said that normally, during day-to-day normal situation, everything is kind of normal. Many people find that it's like a rusty connections. I want to connect to God. Sometimes when I go to a synagogue or even at home, when I concentrate in prayer, I become very close to God, but not really with him. We said yesterday that it's not necessary to become completely with God. It's impossible. That's why Torah says, you cannot see my face, God says. You can see my back. You can see reflection. Because divine power gets filtered as it comes down from level to level. By the time we see God's light, it's already filtered in order for our eyes not to be blinded by the intensity of his expression. So, but we said that even completely non-observant Jews, at a time of severe crisis, they have this connection, something in them wakes something up. So I made a little diagram here to show. Let me see, I show it to the camera. Let's see if you can see it, okay? I know the camera captures it good. But basically here it shows the 10 Sfirot, Chochmah, Bina, Da'at, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut, coming from a highest Sfirot to lower Sfirot, beginning from Chochmah. Chochmah is just the pre-thought. And then a thought comes through Bina, which becomes our thought. And then eventually becomes filters more and more tangible. And eventually that infinity of Chochmah translates to the final world of us. That's a connection between anatomy, physiology of connection between God, and God here is depicted as Ein Sof, infinite light. He's here in Ein Sof, but he's also in all this Sfirot, and he's also in the lower world. And I am speaking to you as part of him. And what I'm saying now is what motivated me to convey what God wants me to convey, essentially. So, that in yellow, I show a bypass. You know how the bypass all the rusty wires in us sometimes need, in the times of crisis, to bypass all that. So that the yellow line from Ein Sof down to Malchut, into the physical world, becomes direct line. Well, that direct line is very strong. Essentially, we become part of Ein Sof. One, that experience that people have, let's say, God forbid, there's a shipwreck, and the people on a boat, after 3 or 4 days in open ocean, you pray to God, and I think no matter how irreligious people had been before, so to speak, they will pray to God, and hopefully God will answer. But during the day, 99.999% of the time, that thank God, we don't have such a severe tests. And that connection going through the filtering layers is difficult to oil it up. And in order to oil it up, there's 2 mechanisms. I put here a mitzvot, which is commandments, and good deeds. Sometimes mitzvot are translated as good deeds, sometimes as commandments, sometimes both. There's subtleties in differentiating between, but basically that's what, let's call it mitzvot, actions, what we do for the goodness. And there's also the study of the Torah. And the third one is a prayer. Well, let's start with a prayer. The prayer helps us to oil the lines here and to become connected with Ein Sof, with God. So during the prayer, sometimes you experience, so to speak, absolute bliss, the feeling that you're in unity in God. But half an hour is gone, 45 minutes, 10 minutes, a minute, 30 seconds, whatever you're involved in a prayer. And then you go on the street, go to work, do your job, play basketball, play guitar, whatever you do, play golf, skiing, dancing, and whatever you're doing, eat activities. That intensity of connection is no longer there, and you're not one with God. You're still part of God, but your connection, so to speak, is not as strong. So but that's a mechanism to be able to temporarily get a oiled connection through the old sphere, not a bypass connection, but through the normal route. So that's mitzvot. Studying the Torah accomplishes. If I'm studying Torah, it's not only learning the book of the Torah history. When did King Solomon live? How many Jewish tribes were there? What was geography? Political implications, where Jews lived, where other nations lived, and nature description, the laws of kashrut, what's kosher, do you eat this meat, do you don't eat this meat. All these studies are not mechanical and not in order for us just to be healthy, although it's part of it. But it's actually through the study, the Torah, the book of the 5 books of Moses, and then prophets and writings, Nevi'im, Ketuvot, writings, Tanakh. All that is a mechanism to get you close to God. So there's a sort of hidden or semi-hidden or even open in the Torah. Torah says, Moses expresses us the idea that God says, I'm not way out behind the ocean, somewhere up in the skies. I'm here. I'm tangible. You can reach me. You can reach me through this mechanism, through the prayer, temporarily, on and off. But if you do the mitzvot, it's almost like I made a little picture here of the chariot. I made chariot, not a horse and a rider, but like a car. So when you're driving the car or you're riding the horse, you become one with a movement, with a process of transporting somewhere. But it's you and the horse. You're not one, but you're very closely connected. That's from the mitzvot. That is the way to bring out connection to God, not in a short term, like by the prayer, but in the long term, to almost like you clean the pipe, like route the pipe, and it becomes clear, all the junk comes out here, and then the blessings of God begin to pour for Ein Sof onto you, onto this world, on everybody else. Not only on you, not only on me. If I do that, so mitzvot, here, somewhere in this area where I live, that somebody in Australia or in Sweden, some other Jewish person living there, and maybe even non-Jewish, all of a sudden feels that something is happening. It opens up this pre-dressing of your soul, the emotional part, the pre-thought, thought, speech, action. This is the number 0, 1, 2, 3. It opens it up and the person doesn't know what's happening, but somebody and something influence his life. And that is because you prayed and made me feel good and did something physically good for me. All of a sudden, my shoulder doesn't hurt. All of a sudden, my son picked up the phone and called me when he, until that point, kind of neglected me. Or my brother that I didn't talk to 20 years just gives me a call and says, listen, I just need to talk to him. Something tells me. Well, that's something that somebody else in Madagascar, a Jewish community in Madagascar, if there is such, I don't know, or in India, or in Saudi Arabia, or in Iran, or in Syria, or in America, in Iceland, whatever you just pick up, that community or that person does it, and it affects us somewhere around the world, or even on a spaceship if you have to be traveling somewhere. And the second, that happens by mitzvot and by the Torah. But mitzvot, that connection gets, you unplug it and then the flood of blessings of God goes down to earth. That's through the mitzvot, by good deeds. Maybe opening the soup kitchen and then feeding the poor. Maybe helping the old lady cross the street. Maybe take care of somebody who is sick or somebody is lonely and make a home for them. And provide the Jewish community somewhere, makes a Chesed committee that not only comes up and say hello, although it's very nice too, but actually, let's say, takes some of their efforts and creates living accommodation for people who are lonely and maybe have dementia or maybe have issues. Those actions are the mitzvot, good things, good deeds. Part of that also mitzvot of eating kosher food and lighting Shabbat candles. Some of them are kind of intangible. You do it, you don't see direct results. And some of them are tangible. Somebody, have problems driving, so you drive them to the synagogue on Tuesday for the morning shacharit, or for the mincha, or for the holidays, so that they can come to the holidays. Of course, the issue is where you can drive on Shabbat, for example, the holidays. That's another thing to discuss it, but those are technical details. But basically, you do something to help your fellow human being, God like that. And the studying of the Torah gets it not you and the horse, but it's actually you, your entire thing. When you're studying the Torah, even though it seems like mechanical process, you're just studying how to sow the field and how to separate that field from that field or how to make sacrifices, although we don't make sacrifices anymore to the temple destructions. Maybe in the future that will come back to life again. So some of them seem to be very remote to our present life and not applicable to present life. Some do. So, but when we study that, and even when we're discussing, is it applicable today or not applicable today? Just the process. Imagine the group, 5 people, 10 people, 100 people, yeshiva, volunteers group, religious or non-religious, getting together and studying Torah, and all of a sudden that process becomes you not just a horse and a rider, but one, completely comes in, and that is the area that is unplugs the pipes and showers the blessings on a long term. On the long term, that stays with you and with the rest of the humanity, certainly with the rest of the Jews, and then the non-Jews alike. The showering of the world is coming. All of a sudden it rains. Spiritual energy comes to us and physical energy comes to us. God responds. So that is the mitzvot and Torah. It's almost like a key for the car. It seems like what this key of the car has to do with the car movement. It's the engine that moves the car, the wheels that move the car. And yet the key turns, click, and all of a sudden the car responded. So you studying the Torah, you do good deals, learning Torah and studying and doing mitzvot. It's not a concept that I think many non-observant, non-religious Jews, or maybe even non-Jews think, oh, these guys are sitting in yeshiva all day long and they're studying this, and it's so boring. They're completely separated from the world. Not at all. These people are not separated from the world. There are some who rabbis committed to the studying of the Torah non-stop, 25 hours a day, some studying for an hour or maybe half an hour, and then they work. They have the same professions and jobs as all of us. So it's a combination. We have all our jobs assignment from somebody who is just learning the Torah, Zebulun and Issachar, the two brothers. One was a Torah scholar, and another one a sailor. This guy goes to sail, brings a fish, feeds the tribes, they eat the fish, and munching in on the fish, and the guy says, well, what did you learn in Torah this week? Tell me about it. So the guy tells him about the Torah, because he studied the Torah nonstop. The brother is the sailor, or the tailor, and he is a Torah scholar. So you need both. And some people do just Torah study, or you have to continue to be involved with the world. But mostly you're a Torah scholar. You're in yeshiva, you study all Torah. So that me, who is expert in machinery, for example, do my work during the day, and then when I need to have a question, like the question to ask what we're talking today, I go to people like that and say, what does it say, this and this? How does it work? And they say, it's in Deuteronomy chapter 7, and that's in Prophet such and such, or it's in Gemara and Mishnah, or in Kabbalah such and such. They become librarians or help you study. That's integration of the society. That's religious, non-religious, to the right, to the left, to the center, politically, religiously, you name it, all fits together. It's all one. And that is what non-duality of the Torah, non-duality of the Torah. Torah is God. God is Torah. Not just a book that you're reading, but more than that. On a higher level, the Torah that you look at it in a written form or in a computer form, it's just expression of God. So expression of God is God. Just my words are me. But that's similarities. But the difference, maybe subtle, maybe not so subtle, I speak my words, I still relate to them. They express my thoughts. They express my inner soul, really. But they leave me after I spoke. God does the same thing, except his expression, his Torah, does not leave him. It comes into the form for us in this world to understand, because our dimensions are limited. We have space and time. God does not. He's beyond that. So God expresses himself through his Torah, through the mitzvot. So the Tanya is saying that the main purpose of the mitzvot is to give the worlds, all these many four worlds, their life energy. In fact, it's the other way around. God wants mitzvot to be observed, and therefore he created the worlds to make this possible. So this mechanism that we use are created in order for us to do mitzvot. So God created the world in order for us to live as good human beings. That's objective. Our objective, to do his will, which means not just to stand and pray to him like unto an idol, and then go and do my thing, but to recognize that he wants us to express ourselves freely with a free will, lovingly to him, which means to us, and be a good Jew, or be a good Muslim, or be a good Hindu, or be a good whatever, religion, a good Christian, whatever religion you practice, Confucianism, if you do that, but to be good and have these innate concepts that God gave us, expressing himself to us through the Torah, in order for that connection between the infinite and finite to be established. So once again, studying the Torah and doing mitzvot get you direct connection to God, direct connection, in order to open up the pipes of blessing. And the prayer is the way to clean up the day-to-day routine to get there in order for you to establish this connection. So prayer is to push yourself up to become part of God, and mitzvot and Torah are the ones that push God's energy, pull God's energy, God's blessings down to you. Is that interesting? Is that clear? Is that a bit confusing? Perhaps. But when you think about it, that's why the Torah encourages us to think about it, to contemplate on the words of God. So what I just said, try to kind of condense it perhaps and sit with a cup of tea at home or in a synagogue or wherever you might be and think through that and feel through that. And that connection will become more and more clear to you. The unimaginable will become imaginable. With that, have a great day. And today is Friday, so Shabbat is coming, and that's Rosh Chodesh coming up. Rosh Chodesh Adar, the 2nd of Adar. Coming close to Pesach. Purim first, then Pesach. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow. Tomorrow is Shabbat, so we'll talk about it on Sunday. Have a great week. Have a great Shabbat. Go give a hug to your friend. Go give a hug to your relative, your son, your daughter, your mother, your father, your grandparents. Go give them a hug and say, and they say, hey, how it happens? You don't remember you doing this very often. They say, I don't know. Something in me that pre-thought pushed me to do that. And it feels good. It will be good for you. It will be good for him or her. It's a nice thing. It's a good thing. That's expression of Torah, and that's expression of God. Shabbat Shalom.